AI could be quite powerful with the Internet of Things, with sensors in the ground and drones taking pictures, satellite imaging, lots of data that can come and help in the crop production. Tips of connectivity provide that basic framework, the basic building block towards using AI in applications. In short, AI is moving fast. It's hard to regulate something moving this fast, but it's important to agree on some principles, to have some guardrails, and to develop the international standards to help the policymakers navigate.
Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast. Join host Sanjay Puri as he explores the dynamic and developing world of artificial intelligence governance. Each episode features deep dives with global leaders at the forefront of regulating AI responsibly, tackling the challenges using AI can bring about head-on and enabling balance without hindering innovation.
Welcome to the Regulating AI podcast, the leading global platform promoting responsible, ethical, and trustworthy AI practices. I'm your host, Sanjay Puri, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Bilel Jamoussi, a distinguished engineer, diplomat, and global leader in telecommunication, standardization, and AI governance. We are speaking ahead of the very, very important conference, AI for Good, that's going to be held from July 8th to the 11th in Geneva, Switzerland. Dr. Jamoussi serves as the Deputy Director of the ITU, Telecommunication Standardization Bureau, and the Chief of the Study Groups and Policy Department in Geneva, Switzerland. Under his leadership at ITU, he has paved the way for creating digital payments, guidelines, and standards that foster financial inclusion globally. Dr. Jamoussi, welcome to the Regulating AI podcast. It's an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Sanjay, for having me.
Wonderful. Dr. Jamoussi, we have a global audience. Our audience is made up of policymakers around the world, members of Congress, Senate, governors, members of European Parliament, and other leaders around the world, as well as AI entrepreneurs and activists. So for them, and this conversation is really about them, you've been instrumental in the development of AI for Good at ITU. Can you tell us how this groundbreaking initiative was conceived and what drove the organization to create this platform?
Thank you very much. Let's, maybe first, what is the ITU? And that's why we created AI for Good. The ITU is the United Nations Digital Specialized Agency for Digital Technologies. We've been around for 160 years and have evolved with technologies from the days of the telegraph, when the ITU was established in 1865, to today's artificial intelligence. And so over the past 160 years, the ITU has evolved thanks to its unique membership of 194 countries or member states and 1,000 private sector entities and academia. And that unique private-public partnership allowed us to kind of evolve with the technologies from telegraph to telephone to wireless to fiber optics and today to artificial intelligence. And so about 7-8 years ago, 2017, we started seeing a lot of interest in artificial intelligence and machine learning as a new tool to solve complex problems. The cost of compute was going down, the cost of storing data was going down, and so lots of innovation on machine learning and algorithms started being possible. And at that time, we thought of maybe convening an AI for Good summit in Geneva. This was in 2017, to really bring researchers, government, and private sector to discuss how we can use AI to solve many of the big problems, the big challenges of the world, in healthcare, in education, in agriculture. And so that platform, which is a quite unique multi-stakeholder platform, grew from 2017 to today. We expect this year, from 8 to 11 July in Geneva, to have about 10,000 participants, including heads of states, ministers, C-level executives from governments, and the top researchers and big names on AI, from Joshua Bengio to Jan LeCun, Jeffrey Hinton, and many, many other experts on AI.
Wow. Uh, so 160 years of evolution, and it's come down to one of the most transformative technologies, as you said, in 2017. There's a lot to unpack there, Dr. Jamoussi, but let me ask you, uh, how did you come up with the name AI for Good, really? Because
Well,
it sounds very, very nice. And, obviously the other side is there is AI for bad too.
right. I think we've wanted to focus on the problem-solving aspect. AI for good,
Hmm.
for example, when we had the conversation in the summit of 2018, there was
Hmm.
a clear shortage of doctors and nurses around the world. And AI was starting to solve certain diagnostics based on big data. And we wanted, with the health experts, we launched a focus group to bring doctors and data scientists to see how those algorithms and solutions popping up on smartphones and computers and so on should be benchmarked to make sure that the diagnostics or predictions they're making can actually help people in low income settings where they don't have access to doctors and nurses and hospitals. So an AI application could actually save lives. And that was one example of reasons of really thinking of AI for good. Another example where in agriculture there is possibilities of optimization of resources, water, irrigation, fertilizers, and other resources used. AI could be quite powerful with the Internet of Things, with sensors in the ground and drones taking pictures, satellite imaging, lots of data that can come and help in the crop production. That's another good example. Um, Another third example is in the area of disaster management, natural hazards. When you have lots of satellite images, you have forecast data, IoT devices planted around countries and areas that are usually sensitive to various earthquakes or rainfall or fires, wildfires. Having that data early on and having machine learning and AI applied to that data could save hundreds, thousands of lives because you can predict those natural hazards and detect them way earlier than by traditional means. Then you can use AI to target the populations that need to get the early warning. And again, this is an example of good use of AI. And so, back to your question, we saw many big challenging problems that AI now is possible, or back then in 2017. And we saw the rapid evolution over the past 8 years that AI is capable of solving real problems and helping save lives.
No, that's incredible. Uh, you talked about many very, very important applications, Dr. Jamoussi, and I want to kind of follow up on them because they're of big interest to me personally, but to our audience. So, you talked about the healthcare work that is possible, where you're giving access through machine learning and data to people in many, many different areas. So you talked about, AI-powered diagnostics. Now you've done a partnership with WHO and WIPO. How are you? What is the genesis of those partnerships, and how are you setting international benchmarks? And what impact are you seeing in healthcare delivery, particularly, when you go into some areas, rural or lower income countries, maybe they have low resource settings. So tell our audience a little bit about the impact that you're seeing on this, Dr. Jamoussi.
Great. Yeah, indeed. As part of the 2018 summit, we launched this focus group with WHO, and then WIPO joined us to really bring doctors and data scientists together to curate the data, collect it, annotate it, on different use cases, different diseases, and then test those algorithms that are being used to help in the diagnostic and to benchmark them to see if they're really accurate or not based on the medical expertise. What we learned from that focus group, which is multidisciplinary, is many of these AI problems need to have the subject matter expert, in this case, doctors and nurses and so on, and the data scientists, and bringing them together, agreeing on the taxonomy, agreeing on the ethical use of the data, agreeing on the regulatory frameworks, because Europe has its own regulatory framework for introducing new devices and tools in the healthcare sector. The US, the FDA has its own rules. So different countries have their own traditional regulation of the healthcare sector. And now you introduce a new element of using AI in that space. And so we had a lot of participation from the healthcare regulators from the US, Europe, India, really around the world. And then the center of this exercise was on how do we find that data collected, curated, so that you can do those inferences and run the algorithms on the data. And that was probably the biggest challenge. Initially, especially in low-setting countries, the data is not being collected. There are no medical health records. The healthcare system is fragmented, is not connected. The patients are not necessarily connected. Still, we have 2.6 billion people who are not connected to the internet today. So the focus of that 5-year journey with WHO was to identify a number of use cases, go around the world and have meetings, sometimes in New York, sometimes in Tanzania, sometimes in India, to really bring the expertise and the awareness of the need to collect the data and have the framework around it. And now, after those 5 years, in 2023, we launched this global initiative on AI for health with WHO and WIPO to implement something like 36 reports and use cases in every country around the world. And the participation of those countries is critical. I mean, we need, WHO has people on the ground. We have these seminars to transfer knowledge. A few weeks ago, for example, we was in one of the seminars here in Geneva, and the minister of Rwanda, the health minister, was a speaker in the breakfast on some of the exemplar solutions. And Rwanda was one of the countries there where the data is being collected. They had a coder academy, so they brought the youth that have coding experience to write machine learning applications that are customized to the local data, to the local languages, and to the local context in Rwanda. And he spoke on how this framework that was developed jointly was helping Rwanda in implementing healthcare applications or AI for health to help in the low resource settings where they don't have hospitals and any institutions for people to go to, but they might have applications and telemedicine to help those patients.
No, I think that's very, very important. Dr. Jamoussi, do you think a time will come when a kid in Rwanda in a village, or in Tanzania, or in India, or in Morocco, or any of these places has a low cost phone in their palm and has access to world class healthcare, at least from a diagnostic, simple general practitioner, internal medicine kind of thing?
That is what we're working towards. It is still a challenge. As I mentioned, 40% of Africa is not connected, especially women.
Yeah.
And so that is an area that ITU is committed to connecting the world. We have many programs, Partner to Connect, where we're trying to get industry players in the private sector to commit and make pledges. We're about 70 billion on 100 billion trajectory by 2030. Our Secretary General has been a champion of this Partner to Connect initiative. We have another initiative with UNICEF to connect schools. It's called GIGA. And so these initiatives of connectivity provide that basic framework, the basic building block towards using AI in applications. And so we have a long journey ahead of us, but we're also encouraged by the commitment we're seeing from governments and private sector in connecting, in collecting data, in curating that data and applying it and having more coders around the world. An area that is clearly a big gap for us is the AI skills. And that's why in Davos this January, we launched the AI Skills Coalition. And we are pleased to have today 50 partners, including some of the big private sector players like Microsoft and Amazon Web Services and Cognizant. And these partners are providing free courses. We have about 70 free courses in multiple languages. And the courses range from AI for kids to AI for diplomats. So we're trying to provide as many free courses and certification so that people can get skilled up on AI. And it's important at the highest level of government to have ministers who are aware of the levers that AI can give them and what would be required in their country to be able to take advantage of this AI fast-moving revolution. And it's also important for kids to grow up with AI in mind. That's why, for example, we launched the AI youth robotics competition, where we target 8 to 18 years old to really implement AI solutions while playing, to learn all of those AI skills, to program the robots and win some of the challenges. In India, we had like 200 kids last year in October. It was fascinating to see them all program these robots to target certain natural hazard solutions. So these are some of the things that we're doing to answer your question. Will we see a day where every kid around the world have solutions on their in their smartphone? It is challenging, but we have to put all of these pieces in place to get there. Another area we are focused on is the universities and academic research institutes. In many countries, they don't have big industrial and private sector companies producing new solutions, but there is a strong university research. There are professors and students, and there we targeted that audience by creating a number of machine learning challenges. We have 100 machine learning challenges done so far, 10,000 developers, mostly from developing countries, that worked on different AI solutions. And these could be from machine learning for 5G networks to tiny machine learning for weather prediction, different problem settings. And then we give them about 3 months. They compete, and the winners get a monetary award and then get to be invited to the AI for Good Summit in Geneva to really be able to get that exposure for their intelligence, hard work, and dedication to create something quite unique and powerful. They get also access to Amazon Web Service compute platform, because in many of these low-income countries, they don't have the data centers and the compute platform to be able to really try different machine learning algorithms. But if they win the competition, they get access to these compute resources. And that provided this crowdsourced innovation at a global scale. The Innovation Factory is another program we have to target SMEs and startups. Again, in many countries, you may not have the big players on AI, but you have a lot of SMEs and startups creating AI applications. And so we have been launching these innovation factories where startups do a pitching competition. And so far, we've had hundreds of startups in 40 countries. And after they pitch, those winners are brought to Geneva at the AI for Good Summit. They meet investors, they meet big companies, they meet other ministers from other countries, and then they are able to scale their solutions and be able to grow rapidly. And that gives those young innovators around the world an ability to scale with AI.
Wow. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, we could have like 10 episodes on each activity, but I'll just quickly try to summarize and correct me if if I'm mistaken. Obviously, on healthcare, you think the journey has begun where there will be over time access to basic healthcare for everybody. As you said, connectivity is a big issue still, with large parts still not on the internet. And you talked about skills, and you're working heavily on skills training with young people across the board, and you're working on innovation and innovation factories, and you're doing the startup competitions and providing even cloud services to the winners, and some of them are going to be at this conference for AI Good. The winners will be there. So that's a lot of incredible work that you're doing just at a foundation level, because yes, you're high up there in terms of working on initiatives for healthcare with the WHO, but you're working at the foundation level. In terms of you talked a little bit about the climate change and some of the work that you've done on there. You have partnered with WMO and UNEP to integrate AI into early warning systems for climate resilience. Can you give some examples of how AI is being used to predict floods, landslides, and wildfires? Especially, I'm in the US, we've had a big issue in California, as you know, and it's now a recurring issue about wildfires. And what real-world impact do you think some of these things can have on communities around the world?
With the pleasure, we had this focus group on AI for natural disaster management. It worked for a number of years, produced many reports. One of them was published in Nature magazine, and it's very difficult to publish in Nature magazine. Also in Time magazine, early this year, or I think December last year, we had an article on how these AI for natural disaster management save lives in cities. To your question, we have an example of a landslide prediction in India. It was a project driven by Manipal Institute of Technology. It used AI to predict landslides. The project was developed to really deal with a problem that this community was facing. It was based on a lot of data collection from satellite imaging, from IoT devices, and it allowed for an early detection. And these maps were really helping the local authorities take preventive action before the landslides would occur. So that's one concrete example in India. We have other examples of landslide prediction in Ecuador, and wildlife fires in China, in Portugal, in different areas around the world. And thanks to this great work that was done by the focus group, bringing again the metrology experts and the data experts and the environment experts to bring a massive amount of data and then create these machine learning algorithms to train on the data to be able to solve these problems. And then at the end, the bookend of it, once you detect it, then you need to early warn people. And so we have this early warning for all initiative with WMO under UNSG's umbrella to really use the common alerting protocol, which is a standard from ITU, and different channels to target the right audience, because you don't want to send the wrong alarm. People don't trust it after that. So you need to target exactly the population that would be impacted and share with them the information in a multilingual and multi-channel form. Smartphones, feature phones, the web, etc. Cell broadcast, etc.
No, that's fantastic. Dr. Jamoussi, food security, as you know, is another critical area. How is the collaboration that you have with FAO supporting things like precision farming, and what role do you think AI can play in sustainable agriculture?
So on the food side, we had a focus group with the Food and Agriculture Organization based in Rome, and we had food and agriculture experts with data experts, and they worked together on really how to transform agriculture by enabling data-driven decision-making. And the data-driven decision-making was looking at resource use optimization, forecasting, and the data was coming from the soil through Internet of Things. It was coming from drones, from satellite imaging. Also, if you see that the crop, there is a disease in the crop, before acres and acres go bad, as soon as that crop disease is detected, the appropriate measures are taken and farmers are equipped and enabled to deal with those diseases way earlier than losing the entire crop. So this ITU FAO focus group developed again a number of reports and use cases and training material to equip the agriculture ministries and agencies around the world on how AI could be used to help them and help increase the crop production, reduce resource use, and really bring prosperity to the agriculture sector. Today, we're looking at, after this focus group has concluded, launching a global initiative on AI for agriculture, sort of similar to the path we had with the WHO and WIPO on AI for health.
Well, that's good. Dr. Jamoussi, you're also working on the quantum for good. How do you see quantum computing? A lot of our listeners are very interested in quantum computing. How do you see the quantum computing intersecting with AI for social impact, and what potential do you see in this emerging field?
So AI needs data and compute, and needs massive amount of data, large data centers. We're hearing today, every day, new investments in data centers around the world. And that's great because you need to store the data and process it. But to process it, you need massive computing platforms. One traditional way is today you just have thousands and thousands of GPUs, processing units. In the future, the idea is to use quantum computers, which are different from the normal computers. They're quite powerful, and they're evolving rapidly to be able to solve different problems that AI would have to solve. And that's why at this AI for Good summit, we have a Quantum for Good track where we're bringing a number of quantum computers, big and small, portable and non-portable, to really see how we advance using quantum computers in the AI space to save energy, to save space, because one quantum computer could be replacing thousands of GPUs, and also the energy use, the water resources used to cooling the data centers and the compute platforms. So it's not for tomorrow, but it is evolving rapidly. And that's why, in the same way that we launched AI for Good in 2017, we see this year as perhaps the year of quantum. As you know, it's the UN year of quantum, is a year that we need to launch the Quantum for Good and really encourage the community, the multi-stakeholder community of governments, of private sector, of researchers, civil society to come together and see how quantum can help us solve many of these problems in a more energy efficient, faster process time than usual. And we have a lot of standards underpinning this work, whether it's for AI or for quantum. For example, in the ITU, we have about 400 AI-related technical standards published by our experts. Our experts meaning this 1,000 private sector entities in 194 countries. In the quantum space, for quantum key distribution, for example, we have some 40 standards published by the ITU. So we see the standard setting exercise by our multi-stakeholder community as the foundation for AI and for quantum.
So, Dr. Jamoussi, just to follow up on a very important point you made, you have, you hold, I think, 23 patents and you work with over 90 standard making bodies. Tell our listeners, why do you believe that international standards are essential for trustworthy AI development? Why is it relevant for our audience?
Let's take an example that is not AI, that is used at scale today. We all use the internet, we use telecommunication networks, and that information and the communication we have is secured by a protocol developed 35 years ago by the ITU, the Public Key Infrastructure. It's a cybersecurity protocol that enhances the security and protects the information flow. Having that standard allows global use. Every device around the world, when it's implementing that standard, you have interoperability. and you have the assurance that that protocol is secure and providing the safety that is needed. Now, if we go to the AI space, we have we have parallels to this need. We need standards for interoperability. We need standards for assurance. And once we have standards, then we can test them. We can test the implementation against the standard and ensure that those protocols and solutions being used in the AI space adhere to the same principles of the non-AI space, like the cybersecurity I just mentioned. For example, let's say deepfakes. Deepfakes, AI-generated images, videos, text that is not true. It's very easy to do today. You can just use off-the-shelf software and generate a video talking with you. That did not really happen. So last year at the AI for Good, we had an AI governance dialogue day, and deepfakes were cited by all ministers present from developed and developing countries as a real problem, because last year was a big election year in 70 countries around the world. And so the idea was, how can we use standards to enable the policymaker to have certain guidelines, either nationally or globally, on combating deepfakes? And so that dialogue resulted in the creation of a collaboration between ITU, one of the 3 international standards organizations, ISO, and IEC, our 2 partners in the World Standards Cooperation, here based in Geneva. And we reached out the Internet Engineering Task Force, to the IEEE, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, and other partners working in the space to collaborate on providing all of the standards available today to do watermarking as a solution, where you can authenticate the multimedia. So we have a multimedia authenticity standards collaboration. We have got policy guidelines, and then communication, because the communication is for the policymaker to know what exists in terms of standards, and the communication is to the end user, so that people in social media don't immediately think that everything they're seeing is true. So there is this educational piece that an awareness raising for the end user to know that everything they see is not really necessarily true, and that there are tools to provide authenticity measures of what they're seeing. That is an example where international standards and interoperability help us ensure trust in what we're using, trust in the AI, trust in the information and communication systems, which is critical for people to be able to use AI and trust the use of AI to have these underpinning standards and guidance.
So, Dr. Jamoussi, as a follow-on to this, for our listeners, I think what he's saying is standards really build a level of trust, but also build a level of interoperability. If you're a company, you don't have to deal with multiple different standards. So, as a follow-on, Dr. Jamoussi, coming to deepfakes, do you think, because there are many folks who say that you can, watermarking is not 100% foolproof solution, because there are challenges to that. And as you said, 70 countries had elections, and we saw the use of deepfakes, whether it was in the US and other countries also. But do you think deepfakes are a solution for, watermarking is a solution for deepfakes?
It's one of the solutions. It's not the only solution. There is also techniques of using AI to detect deepfake, because the AI could compare AI-generated videos to many other data points of videos on the internet or other videos generated by the real videos that were recorded, and identify anomalies between the deepfakes and the real image or video. So using AI itself as a tool to combat deepfakes is one of the tools in the toolkit. We will be launching this report at the AI for Good Global Summit, 8 to 11 July. This was the work of the collaboration with ISO and IEC over a year. and we really benchmarked all of the standards that exist today. We will be launching this paper. It was one of the deliverables we promised the world last year when we launched this collaboration. So watermarking using AI, open source techniques. So there are many, quite a number of solutions depending on the media you're using, text, image, video, etc., in terms of how to authenticate them.
Well, that's great. We'll be looking forward to that report because that is a big concern. Following up on the issue of standards and regulation, um, Dr. Jamoussi, as you know, there is an EU AI Act. In the US, we don't have, and we are not going to. I have a lot of senators, members of Congress, administration folks come in. US is not going to have uh, comprehensive AI regulation. So, for companies, especially small companies who have to deal with different sets of regulations around the world, do you think standards might be the way to go? Because I have a lot of entrepreneurs who come in on our show and say, hey, innovation versus regulation or standards, there is that thing. What do you think is the answer, innovation, the balance between innovation and regulation?
Yeah, I think the AI space is moving really fast, and that's why in the dialogue last year, there was a word of caution from a lot of the participants not to over-regulate AI, because it's changing so fast you cannot really regulate it yet. However, as you mentioned, there was a call to develop international standards that can serve as guardrails, but also to continue to have this multi-stakeholder dialogue. Many developing countries don't have a national strategy on AI. And it's important to have those ministers around the table so that they don't necessarily overreact and block AI or overregulate AI. So having this multi-stakeholder and developmental, if that's it's a word, different development stages of the countries meet with each other and share information, allows us to have the right amount of regulation based on what we know today in terms of standards, guidelines, etc. And that's this year we have another dialogue, AI Governance Dialogue Day on the 10th of July, where we continue this conversation. But we're very pleased to have heads of states participate this year in the dialogue. And this really demonstrates how critical and how important to have this dialogue. And this dialogue cannot be among governments alone. It must have the private sector, because those companies are the ones developing these new algorithms, curating the data, and providing these new applications to the world. And having them around the table is critical. It's also important to have the thought leaders, the researchers on AI be part of the conversation, to have the civil society and the UN partners. We have 47 UN partners in the ITU who are invited to the AI for Good and will be part of the conversation, because as we talk today, we have WHO for health and FAO for agriculture, the WMO for meteorology. So different areas of the good of the world is really in the hands of many agencies, and we need to have them all around the table. So in short, AI is moving fast. It's hard to regulate something moving this fast, but it's important to agree on some principles, to have some guardrails, and to develop the international standards to help the policymakers navigate this fast-moving challenge.
So have guardrails, keep innovation going. I think that's what Dr. Jamoussi is saying. But think to our listeners, think about what they have achieved, bringing so many stakeholders across countries, across entrepreneurs, across civil society, etc. It is definitely, to me, the conference that exists. Um, One of the questions that comes up when we have guests on the show, Dr. Jamoussi, is that there is this thing now called sovereign AI, where vendors are pushing every country should have their own AI. Now, every country does not have the resources, small countries, because as you said, AI needs data, it needs the compute power, whether it's GPUs, etc., and then it needs the skills. What what is your message for what are your thoughts about sovereign AI in every country, whether it's small, medium size, or big, having their own? And where do you see this thing kind of playing out?
I think the answer to that really, I mean, the final decision is the hands of the member states who have the sovereign decision on how they want to implement AI. But practically speaking, we still have 2.6 billion unconnected. So just the basic network connectivity is not there. To think of sovereign AI where you have to deploy data centers and deploy massive compute platforms that need stable energy, that need massive fiber optic connectivity, is a big investment. Our digital infrastructure investment report shows a need of $1.6 trillion around the world to fill that gap. So it could be a long-term strategy, but pragmatically and immediately, only a handful of countries can really deploy sovereign AI and have their data centers and have the data hosted in their country. So if we wait that long, I think countries will miss the boat in using AI. And so there has to be a pragmatic look at this question. What's I think is more important, and what we have seen in many of these focus groups, is many countries in low and medium income settings are not collecting the data in a digital form. And if you don't have the data, whether it's healthcare or agriculture or education or any data, any vertical that we want to target, if you don't have the data, having a sovereign data center doesn't, I mean, it's the next step. So first, I think it's important to start collecting the data, being able to annotate it and run machine learning algorithms to test it locally, empower the startup ecosystem and the SMEs in the country. I think that's a more pragmatic and more would have a much better return on investment than just the big iron data centers and compute in every country.
Well, I think some very important points that you made, Dr. Jamoussi, that collect the data, get digital, build machine learning skills, and then move on to the next stage. I think that's a very, very good point for our listeners who are thinking of sovereign AI. On a fun note, from what I understand, AI for Good believes AI is not just a tool for engineers, but also a canvas for artists. Can you explain to our audience who are not always, machine learning experts, why do you invite AI-powered artists, musicians, and performers to the summit? Because we want it to be a much broader platform. So, Dr. Jamoussi, please explain to our audience.
Yes, art is a big part of our lives, and generative AI is capable of creating music, creating movies, creating text, prose, and so on, poetry. So, like every other profession is being augmented by AI, I think the art sector and the artists are also augmenting their skills with AI. And so instead of having an adversarial view of AI and art, we wanted to invite artists that are leveraging AI to have new creative deliveries, whether it's music or videos or images. And really, since the inception of AI for Good, we've had always artists in the show. They lighten the mood. They show how AI could be used in an artistic setting. And we're very pleased that many artists will be joining us to showcase their creation that is augmented with AI.
That's fantastic. Anything else that you want to talk about the summit that's coming up, which I think is going to be just incredible with so many heads of states, entrepreneurs, artists. Anything else that you would like to communicate to the audience?
Absolutely. There is 1 billion people with disabilities around the world. AI has demonstrated an amazing power to help those people with disability communicate and move, walk, listen, see. So you will see more demos this year of AI assisting people with disabilities. Last year, we had one of the participants do a tweet through a brain-machine interface. And President Macron retweeted it, and it went viral during AI for Good Summit. So this year we'll have many more demos on how AI can help people with different disabilities be able to be more engaged and have more communication and be able to move and engage in the society more effectively. Another new thing beyond brain-machine interface that we will have this year is autonomous driving, flying cars will be part of the AI for Good. We have different autonomous driving cars that will be part of the show on the show floor, flying cars. Some will be used around the city. So it's quite exciting how robotics, in all forms of robotics, empowered or powered by AI, is helping us in different aspects of life. And it will all be showcased at AI for Good in Geneva, 8 to 11 July.
Wow, my God. Dr. Jamoussi, you've got flying cars, you got autonomous vehicles, you got, most importantly, this forum on disabilities, as you said, it can change, it is changing the lives of people who really had so many issues, whether it's, the brain chip platform that you talked about, etc. But it seems like, Dr. Jamoussi, you put Davos and CES together in one platform of bringing thought leaders and innovation, and wow, it's going to be fantastic. Really looking forward to that. Dr. Jamoussi, we've taken a lot of your time, but towards the end, we generally end with a little fun one-word lightning round questions. You ready for our audience?
Sure.
Okay. One-word answers. Dr. Jamoussi, biggest AI opportunity?
Healthcare.
Biggest AI risk?
Lack of standards.
In your view, what is the most underrated AI application?
I think the AI for health applications are most underrated.
Okay. AI regulation, should they be global or national?
Both.
Most important AI principle?
I think data is the key part of AI. Without data, we cannot talk about AI.
I knew you would say that. Future of work with AI?
Augmentation.
And key to responsible AI?
It's responsible AI is key, and testing AI will enable us. Testing based on standards will give us that trust in AI.
Dr. Jamoussi, this has been an absolutely enlightening, for me, and I'm sure for our listeners, conversation. The amazing work that you're doing, your combination of, your technical expertise with, so many 23 patents, experience with 90 standards bodies, diplomatic skills, but just the scale of work, because a lot of people, I can tell you, Dr. Jamoussi, are not even aware of what all is being done. So to our listeners, I really encourage you to learn more about what Dr. Jamoussi and what AI for Good is doing at aiforgood.itu.int, and consider that how the listeners can contribute to what they are doing to, and also to the responsible AI development in your own communities and organizations. The work that Dr. Jamoussi and his team are doing is showing us that with the right standards, right partnerships, and inclusive approaches, AI can truly be a force for good. So, Dr. Jamoussi, thank you for joining us on the Regulating AI podcast and for your tireless work in making AI serve humanity's greatest needs like healthcare, agriculture, climate change, food security, but while maintaining the highest standards of safety and responsibility. We look forward to seeing you and all of this at the AI for Good Summit in Geneva, Dr. Jamoussi. Thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Sanjay, and thanks to your listeners for listening to us today.